All right, so we're going to start on lesson 3, parts for the binding, and we're going to open up our SolidWorks. As you can see, we're going to start by creating this part, and we're going to create an assembly. We're going to end with an assembly. So we got a schematics here. We got all the dimensions laid out. And the first thing that we're going to do is task 1 here. We're going to create a new part, and we're going to draw 2 lines off of our origin point here. And when it says about 200 millimeters and about 75 millimeters, that means we don't smart dimension those numbers. We just, when we draw it out, we try to draw it to the best of our abilities at those dimensions. So let's go ahead and file new part. Okay. Come back here. Now that opens. And we're going to sketch. We're going to look and see, it says to do the top plane. So we're going to click on our top plane, sketch. We're going to use our line tool, and we're going to go 200. So I click on this, and you can see these numbers over here. So I'm going to go about 200. It's 230. See, I can see the numbers here going in. So it doesn't have to be exact. So that's 201.2. And then this one, I'm going to come out about 75. So that's good. So notice how I use this axis point. I started in the middle and I drew up and down. You're going to want to do that. And the next one is we're going to create one that is about 35 millimeters. So I'm going to come up here. This is about 35 millimeters. So I don't want it to be attached to this line. If I do that, it's going to lock the position. So I never want to put something in there. So I'll do, this is 29. So that's good enough for me. And then we have a line that's not vertical, and they don't give us an about, but looks like it's about halfway, but it's not halfway. So I'm just going to draw a line, and this is totally vertical. I don't want it vertical. I want it out at some point. And here's 78. This is about 78, but it's at an angle there, so it doesn't make a difference. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a tangent arc. So I come up here. This is a 3-point arc. I want a tangent arc, and I'm going to pull that across like that. So now I have a tangent arc. All right, so I have this drawn. And now I'm going to come over, and now I could smart dimension this. So let's get rid of this. I don't want any of that. So this is going to be 40. This is going to be 80. This is going to be 225. And I'm not going to smart dimension this line. It's gonna just happen to be what it is. So go on my Smart Dimension tool. This is 40 mm. Now, if you happen to be in inches right now, see how this says 40? If it happens to be in inches right now, what you want to do is you want to go under Tools, and you want to hit Options. You want to pick the documents of the property and pick units. All right, so this is, you can pick inches, centimeters, meters, custom. You're going to want, for this one, you're going to want everything to be in millimeters. So we click on millimeters, and then we hit OK. And then everything will be in millimeters instead of in inches. All right, so we have Smart Dimension. This is 225 mm for millimeters. This is 80 mm. And this is 75. So we see here's our shape going in. We want to make sure that we have these as tangents. We want this to be a tangent. It's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under our Add Relations. We're going to pick our arc, and we're going to pick our line 4, and we want it to be tangent. So now this, you see, this is nice and smooth. We see this is already tangent. That's what this sign, it says is tangent. We want this to be tangent. So here's our initial shape. We're going to do that. Here's our initial shape. We didn't Smart Dimension this line. It just comes out that way because we Smart Dimensioned everything else. And we make sure that there's a tangent arc here and that there's a tangent line here. So that's nice and smooth across. So the next thing is we're going to pull it out. So we go to Features, Extrude Base. And we want this to be 25 millimeters. 25 mm. So now we have this shape. So everyone should have that. That's good. All right, here's about making different cuts. All right, so we're going to select this face, and then we're going to draw a line on the face using our line tool. And then we're going to use tangent arcs again on both sides. So we select the face. We come up and we have normal to, and that brings us across right here. We go on Sketch, Line Tool, and you see how this turns orange? That means we want to draw on this line that's going to be connected to the line there. And we don't want to, what we do is we want to just put the line across here like that. That's a pretty good line. And then we're going to pick our tangent arc, and we're going to come up to this middle point. See that orange square right there? Yellow, now it's orange. We want to be right there on that. And then we do the same thing. We pick this orange dot. We want to lock it into that orange square right there. All right? So we see that we locked it into the midpoints on both sides. And now we want to Smart Dimension the two arcs, the length of the two arcs, and our line will just be filling in the spot. So this side, this. All right, so this across right here is 40 mm. Oops. And then if I pick this to this, I have 65 mm. And now we go, it says the offset entities. Click on any of the 3 sketch entities and then click on the offset entities. Alright, so get our dimensions off of there. We have offset entities. If you click on this and do offset entities, you'll see that it has created the entire line that goes across like a duplicate of it. And what we want this to be is offset by 3 millimeters. So it's at 10. 3 millimeters, and then hit OK. Alright, so now we have it right there. It says zoom in and draw this line to connect those across on both sides. So we zoom in and we pick a line tool. Oh shoot. Edit. Let's see. 3 millimeters. Okay. All right. So now I pick a line tool. Go across. Pick a line tool. Go across. Hit OK. And now we do an extrude cut. Extrude cut, but we want it on the flip side. Let's see if it's gonna work. Yeah, it should. Through all, so I changed it to through all, and then it says through all, and then click on the switch side. So usually when we do a extrude cut, we're cutting just the part that we drew, but what we want to do when we do this flip side cut is want to cut everything else. So you can see here we have a part that looks something like this. And then they show us this. So it says save this this part as the binding. So file, save as, binding. Alright, so now we're going to create these side tabs, and the first thing we want to do is we want to select this face and then do the normal to standard views, and we're going to select a corner rectangle type and draw it on the side. So all of these instructions are right here. Let's get to it. Alright, so I can hit my arrow tool so I can rotate it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Click on the face. Sketch. I got this, it's already set corner rectangles. I'm going to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom in. So it's showing that I will draw this box right around here. All right, so I could see there's two lines. I don't want to be on those lines when I draw it. I want to be a little behind it. And we'll get some 25 across, and it's 120 from the edge. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm picking a corner. Oh, I'm supposed to do this first. So that's a flat edge. So we go normal view, flat edge, and I'm going to draw this box. You can see how the top's orange. That means that it's right on that orange thing. Alright, so there's my box. And I want a smart dimension. I want this to be 25 millimeters. And then I want it to be from this point to that point. I want it to be 120 millimeters. So I got to zoom out. I want from this point. Nope. Zoom in. Get that orange to that point. So I got a straight line. I don't want it crooked like that or slanted. I want a straight line across, and that's going to be 120 mm. You can see what's going to happen here. All right, so I have this all. You can see it's not on this. It's not on this line. I don't want it locked on that line. I want it between the two. So now I'm going to do the extrude, and you can see it's pulling that box out. But we want it to be extruded only 4 millimeters. So I'm going to put in here 4 millimeters. All right, and I check there. So you can see that I have just this little extension coming out. All right, so the next step is I'm going to draw this box, and I'm going to use the corner rectangle, and I'm going to draw it specifically in this corner, and I'm going to draw it, even though it tells you that you could select these and add relations so that they're collinear. Basically you can just draw it so that it's on there. So I'm going to click on the face, sketch, corner rectangle. So when I put it right here, this side's locked, right? And it shows that these two are together. Now I could have just drawn it right till it got to this orange line or that point right there, and then it would have been locked. But it's telling me that I should say, okay, I want to add a relation. Get rid of all these, delete, 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 delete. Alright, so I want to pick this line, and I want to pick this line, and I want them to be collinear or attached to each other. So that's now collinear. And I want to smart dimension it so that the height is 32 millimeters. So now I'm going to do smart dimension, height, 32 mm. Okay? And then I'm going to extrude it to a blind depth of 3 millimeters. Extrude. Three millimeters. Green check mark. And now I have something that looks like this. Alright, so now that we have that done, we're going to create these lovely shapes. Alright? So the first thing we want to do is we want to sketch a center line, which is a drawing tool. So I'm going to click on the face, hit sketch, centerline, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I want this is the middle, so that dot and this dot are the middle, and I'm going to draw that center line. I want it to be straight up and down, so I go like that. So I have that done. And now it says select the center point arc sketch toolbar, start the arc from the center line and drag the radius start point as shown, release the arc. Alright, so you look at this picture here. Alright, you zoom in. This yellow square is the midpoint from the top and the bottom, and you can see that they start this center point arc below the midpoint, just a random spot, and then they go to about here. So let's then we draw some lines on both sides. So let's take a look at what we have here. I want to get my center point arc. Alright, and I don't want to be there. I want to be on this line just below here, and I want to draw a line like that. Draw another center point arc using the same center, make the arcs concentric. So they're I got this point here. I'm going to stay on the same point. That makes it concentric, basically. And I wiggle back and forth. You saw how it did this. So I want it to be here. So if it tries to do a circle on the outside like that, I just give it a wiggle, and it'll switch. While I keep the mouse pressed, I give it a wiggle. So there we go. So we have that done. So there's those two. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this whole thing out for one side, and then I'm going to make a mirror entity to put it on the other side. Okay? So these are tangent arcs. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to get tangent arc. Okay? And I'm going to put that there. And then I'm gonna show you how to smart dimension it and mirror it. All right, so we've done the radius of 14. We've done from these 2 points of 6 millimeters. We have made the radius of these 2 sides 1.5 millimeters, and this from one to the other is 6, but we made it from the midline to here as 3 millimeters. Now we just have to do from this point to the top is 6 millimeters. All right, good. We have all our dimensions in here now. So like I said, we have this radius is 1.5. This radius is 1.5. We have our radius of this to be 14. These are concentric. This is 3 millimeters out from the line. From this point to this point is 6 millimeters, and from this point to the top is 6 millimeters. Now all we have to do is do our mirror entities. So we're going to pick this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. We have this across here, and we're going to mirror. Click on here. We're going to mirror it across this line, so we get one on the other side. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cut through all, and we get it through the whole thing right there. Okay, so you have something like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this around the other side. And we're going to click on this face. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to end up making the same thing. We're going to make the same thing on this side, and then we're going to fillet the bottoms. So select the face, sketch, corner rectangle, go to normal view here, pull this across, make sure this is 25 millimeters. This guy, that guy, 70 millimeters. Feature, extrude. We have to go all the way back up here for this information. $4 millimeters. So it looks like that. Click on the face, sketch, corner, start here, add relations. Alright, we want this line, that line, go linear, hit OK. Smart dimension, this guy, be 32 millimeters, and then extrude it to be 3 millimeters. So now we're going to have to create these again. So you're going to draw your center line, do your arc, your center arc, then tangent arcs on the end. Use the mirror entities to create two, and create all your dimensions. Okay, so we got this done. It had a little thing. I had to edit undo because I had hit the extrude boss instead of the extrude cut by accident. So now all we have to do is add the bends to this, and we add a 4 millimeter fillet to the outside. So let's go to our fillet. We want to have 4 millimeters, and I want to add it right there on that side. So you can see that curve. So I'm going to go over to this side and do the same thing, and then hit yes. So you can see it's got nice curves on both sides. And for the inside, we're going to use 1 millimeter fillet on the inside. So we click on fillet. Want this to be 1 millimeter. There. And there. All right. And that adds our fillets right there. Okay, now we're going to add bends. We're going to select this middle part and then click on the insert sheet metal bends from the menu. So let me see if I can rearrange this. That looks good. So isometric view. Click on this face. Insert sheet metal bends. All right. So we want to change the bend radius to 3 millimeters. Change the bend, which is material. Leave the remaining option as shown, and then click OK. All right, so we did the sheet metal there, and now it says that we can pull this bar back to flatten the part. So what we want to do is we want to come down to the bottom. We just use the sheet metal, and there's a blue line right here. See that little hand? If I click, I can drag that under the flattened bends, and everything becomes nice and flat, just like we see right here. All right, so now we're going to add fillets all the way across. 15 millimeters for these 3 points, 6 millimeters for these 4 sides, and 2 millimeters for these inside corners. Add fillet, 15 millimeters for this point. No, I don't want the face. I want the edge. So I'll get a little closer. This, very good. And I could use my arrows to flip this around. Hit OK. Alright, so we have these nice fillets. Then we're going to do 6 millimeters on the edges here. Alright, so we got those nice and rounded off. And then the last one here, we're going to add 2 millimeters to the inside. Using the arrow key to rotate it around so I can get a good sense of which edge I want to do. Zoom in so that I make sure I get what I want. There we go. We got all that done. Now it says you can roll back the feature and the part will go back to shape. So we come back down here, get our little fingers, put it all the way down to the bottom, and boom, everything goes right back up. Now we have to create a center hole. Normal view. It says roll it back to underneath bends 1. Select the rollback. Alright, we're going to click on this, sketch, circle, and we just want the circle to be in the middle right now. This looks about good. Draw that. And then we have to dimension it, smart dimension it. From the center point to here, 50, from here 110, and for the radius to be 76, or the diameter be 76. Cut through all, and we got a nice hole there. And that's it. Now we have our binding, so we're going to save that. All right, now that we have our binding created, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to make an assembly. All right, so let's go down here. All right, we got all this stuff done. We're done with our binding. All right, so next part is creating an assembly. All right, so we come over here. We can close this. We saved it. We can close it. File, new, assembly. All right, so we're going to assemble our binding anchor that we created in our first lesson. So there's our binding. So I open that and I place it right in the middle. And then I'm going to insert a component and browse, and our binding anchor, open. I'm going to put that right around there. And we're going to learn how to mate these. So I just inserted the components. I showed you how to do that. Position the components, you can move them around. Just click on them. Bring in your anchor binding. Alright, so we're going to click on the mate tool, and we're going to mate the outside rings with the inside rings. And we want it to be a concentric mate so that the circles are in the same spot. So let's do that. So up here we have mate. We click on inside ring, and then I'm going to have to flip this up a little bit, and I want to click on that ring, and concentric's already listed. So you can see what happened was the circles lined up one on top of the other. So then I just hit OK. All right, and I could hit OK a second time. We can add more mates there, but when you make mistakes with mates, it's easier if you have them so that you can just delete them as they are instead of hitting delete and then getting rid of numerous mates at once. So first thing we did, OK, it's all lined up. Next mate, we're going to click this one to this face. Do a coincident. So mate this face, and then I'll move it up this way, and this outer ring right here, and you can see coincident has already been selected for you. It's a little bit smart on that. So what happened was now this mate, they stuck together this way. Hit OK. Hit OK. And there you have it. We have an assembly of two parts that were brought back together. All you have to do is create your drawings like we've done in the past, and you can print those out. Oops. So we got, oops, over here. We have file, save as, assembly 1. All right, so let's just call it binding. And file, we're going to make drawing from assembly. Make sure that we have a 8 by 11. It's in millimeters, so we have 215, 280 millimeters across. All right, it's the ANSI landscape. Hit OK. And then we're going to pull over one of these guys. All right, and you should know we can use custom settings. We can have 1-to-1's pretty good. You can drag it around. That looks good. You can, if you want it to be solid like that, or if you want it to be one of these. Solid looks nice. And then annotation. That's good. You're going to put your name. Oh, I clicked on this part, so we could label parts, but I don't want to do that. Click off that. A note. Now I can pick this. All right, you can pick your fonts in here. Change all your font sizes. If that's too big, make it smaller so that it fits in the line. Now you can move things around. You can change your font. Do all kinds of stuff. And then you just print it out. File, save this, and then print, and you're done.